studying a lot.
That is awesome. Cool. Well, it's been a while since we spoke. I kind of went on a brief hiatus through the summer with the podcast. I have a lot of other things going on. And I just shot a sizzle reel for a documentary of kind of the same topic here as the podcast. And so I'll keep you posted as that goes along.
Cool. That sounds exciting.
Yeah. So we are we good on time? Like if we're 35 minutes ish, something like that? Okay, cool. I want to keep our interview pretty fresh. I like keeping it pretty conversational. And so, we'll just kind of get started in a moment after a moment of silence. And I'm just going to ask you questions about you and your life and what makes you tick and all of that.
Okay. I'm just
good?
Flipping my camera over to see if it makes my eye line more natural. I think it helped.
Yeah. I'm mostly just kind of save this in case we want to put some clips out. I haven't done a lot with my video. I have like a vast treasure trove of all my interviews. So it'll primarily be audio. So
okay.
We
won't pay too much attention to it then.
Yeah, don't worry. Let me just get my screens all situated and then we'll pause for a second and then we'll get going. Very excited. So I will have Olive read a bio and an intro for you. I pulled some things from, I think I pulled from maybe your Wikipedia, but do you have another bio you'd like to say?
Yeah. Yes,
there's some information on there, but obviously,
they phrased it interestingly. It's like someone misheard me when I was spewing out a bunch of facts, and now every article I've ever been in quotes
great.
The miss.
Oh dear. Yeah. So if you'll just email that to me, then I'll make sure the intro and everything I put on there is accurate. And
the best, you'll love this part. I forget if it's still on there, but it says that I tore my ACL, TCL, and meniscus.
That's a new one.
Yeah, that's funny.
Cool. I would have been like, let me fact check that one.
I'm questioning some of the
definitely. All right, cool. So we'll get that, and I'll make sure that my intro is reflecting the accurate bio. So, all right. We'll pause for a second and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right. I have Jessie Graff here with me today. I've been waiting a very, very long time to talk to you and have this interview. Thank you so much for being here on the 6%.
Me too. I love chatting with you. This is always really fun.
Yeah. So we have talked a little bit before. We have been together on kind of, what do we call it? A chat panel for another show. So I've gotten to know you a little bit through that. And I was thinking, wow, you are just an amazing athlete, a woman athlete. You're a ninja. And so I figured, hey, perfect person to have on my podcast.
Perfect.
So
thank you.
Thank you. So at the top of your resume, like, does it actually say ninja? Please tell me a little bit about how you sort of evolved into that role.
I think I still put stuntwoman first.
Awesome.
Woman and ninja. How did I evolve into that role? I think it was more like coming to find the accurate name for what I had always been. I just grew up climbing everything, jumping off of everything, practicing my beam routine on the roof of the garage. And at some point, it was actually at the end of college when someone told me that, oh gosh, I'm like skipping so many things, but someone told me actors usually don't get to do their own stunts. I had always wanted to be an action hero on TV. I thought that meant being an actor. And so I'd done all the training to get a theater degree. And then I was like, well, wait a second. If I'm not doing the flips off the roof, then hold on. And so when they were like, yeah, the stunt double does that, then I sort of shifted my whole focus and realized that I'd been training for it my whole life, so much more specifically than I even realized. and that all the new things that I suddenly realized, oh, you're missing this area, then it's not like, oh crap, I have to go study this thing. It's like, I get to learn what? And then it's just, I just love stunts so much because you're just surrounded by all these people who are experts at some of the coolest skills in the world. And how do we hang out and socialize? By teaching each other cool stuff. And then like adapting it and turning it into a beautiful performance or terrifying performance, usually both. And it's definitely my dream job.
That's awesome. I would love to learn more about what your childhood was like. What was it? It sounds like you were jumping off things. I'm sure your parents were like, but did they end up being supportive of the physicality of what you do? And what were the sports and the hobbies that you were into as a kid?
I fell in love with the circus when I was 4. And my parents had described me as a painfully shy child. I wouldn't speak to anyone. I would hide under tables. I would hide behind my mom's skirt. Like I got rejected from preschools because I was refusing to speak.
Oh.
And when I saw the circus, I just went, I have to do this. I have to do this. 4 years old. And so my dad, what are you going to do? Like, you can't bring a 4-year-old down to the ring in the circus. And he was like, well, I guess if you want to do it, you'll have to ask the ringmaster yourself, which obviously is a safe bet for a child who doesn't speak to adults. But I said, okay. I went down and I asked the ringmaster if I could fly in the trapeze, and he said no. And I cried, and my parents were like, whoa, this is something that like moves her. So they got me in circus gymnastics classes, and through that, I learned how to socialize and how to ask questions, because I wanted to be good so badly that I was willing to face the fear of talking to the adult who was teaching us and being like, well, wait, how do you do that? Or what did I do wrong? And growing through that just really opened me up to how to interact with people, but also connected me to this source of so much inspiration and drive to move forward and learn. I was living in New York City, but when we moved out of the city, I got into more standard competitive gymnastics, and that was the new love. I loved the structure and just having a routine of knowing, okay, this is the conditioning we're doing, and if you work hard and follow directions, you're going to get really good. And then there were always fears to overcome. Everything in gymnastics is terrifying. So we're always facing those fears and being like, okay, if I do this, I'm probably going to die. But having a coach who knows more, who can say, as long as you look at your toes and set your arms, I'm going to be here to help flip you. And just daily overcoming those fears. After gymnastics, I wanted to go to the Olympics so badly. But I started really late. I started gymnastics when I was 12. I don't necessarily have the right body type. I refused to admit it until I moved on from gymnastics. But quitting gymnastics was one of the hardest things I ever did. But I never fully quit. I think I started pole vaulting, which is like tall gymnasts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
It suited my body type a little bit more. And so I eventually had to find like this balance between, I love gymnastics more, but I knew I could get a scholarship for pole vaulting. Mm-hmm. And I had more of a chance to possibly go to the Olympics or something with pole vaulting. And so I eventually gave up competitive gymnastics and switched to pole vaulting in college. And that's what I went to college for. And at that point I was trying to figure out, I had a list of things to do. I wanted to be an astronaut and a superhero and go to the Olympics for gymnastics, or not gymnastics anymore, but for pole vaulting and for diving. And then once I found out, like I said, that the actors don't usually get to do all the stunts, I was like, okay, well, what do I need to learn? How do I become a stunt person? Mm-hmm. And I just, I made this binder of every stunt person I met. I went on field trips to LA during all of my breaks to meet stunt people, to find out where they train, and just build connections, so that I finished my degree in theater. But in between, I was studying how to become a stunt person, putting together a stunt reel and a resume and taking headshots and action shots and starting to learn martial arts. So by the time I moved to LA, I had this binder full of connections that I'd made. I'd signed up at all the gyms that I heard stunt people trained in, and was working at one of those gyms. So I was like teaching kids gymnastics 8 hours a day, and then I'd stay for another 4 hours to learn stunt skills. And the way we network in stunts, well, there's a couple ways, but my favorite way is you just train in all the same gyms as the people who are training. And then if one of those people is working and they hear, oh, our boss needs a girl who's 5'8" and blonde in this body type that can fall down. They can take a hard hit and we'll get back. They'll be like, oh, I was just training with this new girl. I was trying to teach her a butterfly twist and she wiped out 30,000 times and just kept getting up with a smile. They'll be like, yeah, let's give her a shot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was my beginning for sure.
So then that exposed you to a number of different disciplines in martial arts as well. And it's interesting how all of these, going from the gymnast to pole vaulting to martial arts, they kind of all have some commonality and they're definitely translatable skills. But what disciplines of martial arts did you end up studying?
I think I started mostly with Taekwondo and boxing, and then some wushu and kung fu. I got a black sash in Northern Eagle Claw Kung Fu and a black belt in Taekwondo. And then I did a lot of kickboxing and capoeira and Muay Thai and Muay Boran. And sometimes it's hard to say what I'm studying because I'm at the gym with 5 different stunt guys who may have each studied 3 different styles extensively, and they're just like throwing everything together. So we kind of mix it all together because you're rarely playing, or at least for me, I'm rarely playing a character who is trained in one specific style. It's sort of like, do a cool fight scene and you do have martial arts training, or today you're getting beaten up and thrown down the stairs. So yeah, I just learn everything I can, and I don't always know what it is, but I try to mimic it as well as I can.
So your work is so physical. Your profession is very physical. And I know that you've gone through a number of injuries and surgeries and recoveries from that. What happens, not just in a physical sense, but what happens on the emotional side and the mental side when you have an injury and you have this uphill climb that is going to be tough? How do you approach that mentally?
I think I've always seen an injury as like, it usually jumpstarts a different type of furious determination in me. When I was younger, I used to sprain my ankles all the time. So every time I did it, it was like, partially it felt like the end of the world because there was always some big competition coming up that was the most important thing. And so it would be like, how can I keep getting better? How can I not let this affect me? And so, if it was a sprained ankle, then I was like, okay, my handstands are going to be perfect. My scales on my left leg are going to be perfect, my spins. And so I would attack those skills that maybe I'd been neglecting with a new fury. As time went on and my injuries became more severe, there were always new things to learn. In stunts, there's always learning how to tie knots properly for rigging. I will run around and someone will pull the wire. I'm in a harness and I go flipping somewhere, but do I know how that's working? Would I be able to set it up and pull someone else? Can I look at it when someone else is pulling me and go yep, all of your pulleys are in the right place and this is safe. So there's a thing to study. Then there's always camera angles. If you were punching me in the face here, I have to look at the camera and say, okay, there's the line. I want to react right there. And so you can learn not just about, you can practice without an arm, where to stand and seeing those lines and practicing just that mental awareness, or you can start studying what shots look good, close and far, and how would you do the camera work. But for me, one of the big changes was when I tore my ACL for the first time. It was just, it's such a long recovery, and I'm so emotionally invested in stunts that I was having a hard time. I would go to my Taekwondo classes and sit on a bench on the side, and they'd feel bad for me and hold a pad so I could come over and just sit there punching. And I was like, this is not going to go well. I'm going to jump way too soon. I'm going to come back into this class and re-injure myself. So at that point, I had to come up with a new goal, and that was Ninja Warrior. I was like, hey, let me just pick something that's almost all upper body and see if I can get motivated and inspired to do something that'll keep me entertained. And at the time, I didn't care that much about Ninja Warrior. I just needed a distraction. But over the course of that year, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with feeling strong, because up until that point, there's definitely a little bit of a thing in stunts that as a stunt woman, your first job is to look like the actress. And so if the actress is not super muscular, then it's my job to not be super muscular. And so there was a lot of fear about strength training. And so during this time where I was not going to be working anyway, I was like, well, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe I got hurt because I was too weak. I'm not going to be working. Let's see how big you get when you try to strength train. And so the goal was stabilize your joints, find a way to enjoy working out for a different goal. And I quadrupled my upper body strength.
That's amazing.
So I got so much stronger. I loved the feeling and the confidence of just feeling more capable. I didn't get bigger. My legs got smaller because I was just more muscularly dense. But I was having so much fun. Like, do you ever look at something and imagine like having superpowers and like jumping to something and swinging across, and then realize, oh, that's not a thing humans do? Well, when you strength train, it is. And so having that feeling of being like, I wonder if I could do that, and then trying it and being like, oh my gosh, I can. And it was just, by the time I was healthy, I had this new sense of peace of like, okay, if I'm too muscular to double some actresses, that's okay. I'm going to lose some work, but I'm going to get some other work when they need someone who can do something that other people can't do.
Right.
And that has been very freeing and empowering. And I love being strong now.
And a lot of that is kind of just you sort of making that mental leap of deciding to be you in a way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
And, and then just kind of going back to the idea of mentally considering injury and the recovery process, it sounds like a lot of what you do and your approach is just sort of making your mindset such that you're looking at the silver lining and what you can learn from that experience, and sort of working your way around and sort of accepting the injury being what it is, like it is what it is. What else can I get out of this? And so, there's a lot of, I think that the method that you've developed really speaks to mental resilience. And do you think that that's something that is taught or is learned?
Both.
Or that you're, wait, I'm not asking that the right way.
But I understood what
synonymous.
You meant.
Yes. Taught / learned versus born with.
I don't know. My mom definitely has that attitude, so I'm sure I picked up a lot of that from her. But I think also growing up in gymnastics, like there was always someone who was injured. When you have a team of like a couple hundred girls doing flips on the beam, someone's going to get hurt here and there. There was always someone in a cast. And it's not like you would break your leg and then be gone for a couple months. You'd have your cast and you'd be doing bars. They'd make sure that we knew you're only doing tricks where you're not going to fall and land on your feet. But you got really good at bars when your leg was injured. You got really good at handstands. And even my friend Katie, she got hit by a motorcycle and had broke her leg in 3 places, including the femur. And so she had a cast like all the way up to the top of her thigh. She got really good at back bounces on the trampoline, and then eventually went on to compete in trampoline, I think in college. And so it was never like, oh, you got hurt, you're out. It was, what are we going to learn now? And so, yeah, it's just sometimes what you're learning now is not as exciting as what you would have been learning if you hadn't been hurt, but maybe it's a discipline that you needed and it's going to take you up to the next level once you move on.
I
So,
think,
yeah.
I think that's like that your own story and your friend's story is a great illustration in general, not just within athletics and within stunts or gymnastics, how sometimes the universe kind of gives you a no, says, no, you're going to tear your ACL, you're going to, have whatever injury or whatever setback or challenge. But I think the key is sort of seeing past that and, asking whatever that, greater power, if you believe in one, but, or just like fate, okay, here's a no, but like, what is the yes? Like, what is the door that's going to be opened for me as a result of this? And a lot of that is just like mindset, and kind of saying, okay, let's look and let's see what I'm meant to be doing with this time. And you've like shown exactly how to take advantage of that.
Yes.
So,
yes, because there's always a best choice, or there's always a good choice, I think.
Yeah.
You can always make your situation better, I think.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the way I phrase it to myself is, what opportunity do I have now being hurt that I wouldn't have had without being hurt? Because then, whether I believe in a higher power or not, I can look at that and say, there is some opportunity that I have now that I couldn't have had before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had the discipline to start a bunch of courses and study and get certifications if I hadn't been forced into sitting still.
Yeah.
And so
it's almost like, yeah, it's almost like life is, really one of those choose your own adventure things, right? Like there are all these alternate paths that we could have taken if these challenges and these barriers kind of didn't show up. But, it just takes you on this alternate path and you realize, oh, this is what I'm actually supposed to be doing. So as a stunt woman, ninja warrior, everything else that, you list on your resume, I'm sure that there are so many girls and young women who look up to you and look to you as this hero. But for you, who are your heroes today as an adult? Who do you look up to?
Still mostly my mom. She's just like, she's blowing away my concept of what I thought was possible for adult humans, basically. Like I always knew if you're healthy and fit as you age, and if you work really hard, you can maintain a lot of that. It never occurred to me that you could gain strength after age 40. I would disagree with that now, but I remember when I started seeing my mom start strength training when she was 62, it was like, oh good, she's gonna not get weaker. Or like she's gonna help with her osteopenia, which she reversed. She has no osteopenia now.
Good for her.
But it sparked that question of like, can a 62-year-old woman like build the strength to do a pull-up for the first time in her life if she's never done one? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure, because you never see women in their 60s gain strength, or I mean, I hadn't seen it before. And it took her 2 years of working with a trainer. It took 1 year of training by herself, working a whole year and feeling like, I'm not making progress. How do I fix this? So she got a trainer, continued for another 2 years of just doing drills, using the bands, doing the cable machines and everything. And I've met so many women who are just like, I'm just the person who can't do pull-ups. Like my body just wasn't made that way. Well, hers seemed like it wasn't too. And just for 3 years refused to give up and just kept working on it. And finally, when she was 64, she did her first full pull-up. She's turning 70 in October, and she can do 15 pull-ups.
That's amazing.
and she's competing in local gyms in Ninja Warrior and doing like, she'll swing from one bar and let go and catch another bar and like swing on a ring and move the ring. It's like, even like the little cliffhanger ledges, she can go all the way across like 12 to 15 feet or something. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
She's even doing the impact stuff.
Your mom's
She's
a
like,
badass.
it's insane. And she trains with all these 25-year-olds, and she's like, I'm not sure why they're more explosive than me. How do I fix that? And she goes back to her trainer and learns plyometrics and does deadlifts to get more power. It's so inspiring and just blows my mind every time she learns something new.
That is so great. And I think it also is just a great illustration, not just that with age, we can continue to not just stay strong, but get stronger, but also as a woman that we should not be. And I think the thinking has changed a lot in the past couple of decades, but like, we shouldn't be afraid of strength. We shouldn't be afraid of strength training. And like you were saying, when you got 4 times stronger, it's not like you like hulked up.
Apparently
you got
that's
leaner.
really difficult. Like,
the
women who get hulked out, like they worked really flipping hard for that. They had serious intention to do it and took a lot of intense action to make that happen.
It's truly intentional. Nobody hulks out unintentionally, like, oh my gosh, I did too many curls and boom, it's really hard to get there. And so, I love getting the message out there that women can and should strength train, and that it's a key to, we're all going to age, but we should age strong and age gracefully. So I would love to pivot a little bit and kind of ask you what your definition of success is, and how are you and how are women redefining that today?
I think for me, I always feel the most successful when I'm growing, when I have a goal that I can see, like I'm inspired about it and I'm making progress to it. Accomplishing it is bonus, but feeling like I'm in that process and that I, as a person, am growing, that's the feeling that feels successful to me.
I think it's that road, it's that path that's more important than anything, right?
Yeah. I definitely had trouble when I was in like high school and college with the concept of goals, because, they taught us, set a goal, give yourself a time limit, give yourself the steps, and hold yourself accountable no matter what. And so to me, that meant I'm going to the Olympics, and if I fail, it's death. And I had a really hard time coping with having set such high goals and then falling short. And there was a point sometime after college in my early mid-20s where I realized that way of living was not like sustainable, like for sanity. And it was much more fun to enjoy the process and also to observe how failing at my previous goals had set me up for success in future goals. So, I felt like such a failure for not going to the Olympics in gymnastics, but years and years of gymnastics made me a great pole vaulter that got me like a college scholarship. And I felt like a huge failure for not going to the Olympics in pole vaulting. I was like, you even have the right body type. What's wrong with you? Or years of being a pole vaulter and a gymnast set you up for such a great foundation in stunts. And now you get to learn and grow in all these different ways. And then, I got hurt so much as a stunt woman, which, still happens, but it's fine. I'm still like, I love it so much that I'm still having fun and learning and growing. But all those things set me up for this ridiculous sport that didn't even exist when I was little. And as I got into Ninja Warrior and appreciated how much failing at those other things had set me up for success in this, I was so afraid to attach myself to a goal of like completing stage 1 and stage 2 and, breaking new records. It was really scary to get attached to that bar of success. And I kept trying to convince myself, like, I just care about getting stronger. I'm doing this for fun. I don't have a goal, but it was growing. It's in there so much. And I tried so hard to deny it to myself, but But then accomplishing it, of course, was such a huge like rush of joy and everything. But it also revealed to me that like it is the process that I enjoy even more, because that glow of having accomplished the goal, about a week later I start being like, but what are you making progress towards now? Which is fine as long as you don't like beat yourself with that. It just use it as inspiration towards what's the next thing.
You had a lot of firsts as a ninja warrior. And I know in 2016, correct me if I'm wrong, you were the first woman to complete stage 1 of the Las Vegas finals course. And then the next year, you were the first woman to compete in and successfully finish stage 2. And for those of us who aren't ninja warrior bingers, some of us are, describe these stages and what they mean for your person who say has never seen Ninja Warrior before.
Well, let's see. They're obstacle courses with no running in between. You have maybe like 5 or 6 steps. Each obstacle is designed to have a 40% failure rate for men and women doing the same courses. Let's see. In a typical qualifier, you'll have maybe like 7 to 15 out of 100 people will clear the qualifier. On the next round, there's 10 obstacles, maybe 0 to 6 people will finish. And then at national finals, there's 4 stages. But in the 12 years that they've been doing this show, they've only ever had 2 male winners. There's no woman who's ever completed stage 2, 3, or 4. Well, you have to move on. You have to complete stage 1 to get to the next stage. So there are now 3 women who have completed stage 1 and moved on to stage 2. It's me, Alyssa Beard, and Jessie Graff. But none of us have, I don't know what'll happen. I think Jessie Graff will be doing stage 2 this coming week. So we'll see. But Alyssa and I did not clear stage 2 in the regular season. I got to do it in a special episode of USA versus the World, which I prefer to call Ninja World Championships. It feels more friendly. But yeah, so I cleared stage 2 there. I also got to go to Japan, where they originated the show. They're on season, I think, 39 now. But I was the first woman to complete stage 1. And well, someone did it 25 years ago or something, but stage 1, and then the first one to complete stage 2, twice there. But I guess most of the obstacles that we all train for and love on Ninja are just like swinging from your hands, flying through the air, catching something else with your hands. Sometimes it's like a little 1-inch ledge that you're holding onto with just your fingers. Basically, when I saw the guys do it my first year, I saw the obstacle and was like, that's not a thing humans can do. Like, why do they think someone can do that? And then I saw these guys going through and getting it done. And I was like, oh, maybe I misunderstood. That's something humans can do. And then I jumped up and immediately fell because I didn't have the finger strength. And so it just like was like, well, if they can do it, they're humans. I should be able to do it too. And again, the producers were like, but do you think a woman can do that? Do you think a woman can finish this course? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I kind of got close and I haven't trained yet. Maybe. And it was a year later that Casey, she was the first woman who I think had really been training full time for Ninja, who finished the qualifying and the semifinals course. And then that was the same year that I hurt my ACL and really fell in love with it. But the thing I'm most proud of on Ninja is not specifically the courses that I've cleared, because every course is different. You never know. You can't compare and say like, oh, well, Jessie finished this stage 1, but Alyssa cleared that. Like, you can't compare. They're all so different. But what you can look at is kind of grading on a curve and saying, how many people were able to finish this course?
Mhm.
And so I've placed in the top 6 men, I think 6-ish times. My highest placing was second. So um, that was probably my most exciting. Also in 2016, I got second place to a professional speed climber named Josh Levin. Yeah, that one, it was just like, to me, the course looked crazy hard. I didn't know how anyone could do it. There was this obstacle called the wedge, and I was like, there's no way I can get through that. I'm just not strong enough. And all the guys were like, it doesn't look that bad. I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. And they all, one after another, they all went down on that obstacle. Um, except Josh, who's just like, his grip strength is unbelievable. And so when I got through that obstacle and just shocked myself, that's, that's the best. Defying your own expectations and surpassing what you thought you could do is my favorite, I think.
I think a lot of times, just in general, whether it's towards physical pursuits or professional pursuits, that our baseline as women, sometimes we come in and we're like, oh, that's daunting. I'm not sure I can do that. And generalizing a little bit, but a lot of times the guys can be like, yeah, I can do that. It just kind of illustrates a little bit of what you come in with. But I love that you encourage, that you demonstrate through what you've done yourself, and that you encourage others to just kind of push yourself, because you can surprise yourself
so
at
often
what you can do.
I've always been a little bothered by the phrase. I know it's meant to be inspirational, but you have to believe to achieve. And my stance is, you don't have to believe anything. Like, sometimes it's really hard to convince yourself that you can do something until you've done it. It's okay to
True.
be afraid. It's okay to think that you're not strong enough, as long as you try.
Absolutely.
But also put down mats.
Right. You want
Like,
your safety net.
exactly. Yeah. So whenever I'm looking at an obstacle and I'm like, oh, I'm totally going to wipe out on this, I don't just chuck it over concrete. I pull in a nice thick 8-inch mat. I cover all the cracks between the mats and I say, let's see what happens. And then,
Yeah.
Either I surprise myself and I get it and it's the greatest thing in the world, or I fall short and I can look at a video and be like, oh, you know what? I actually could have gone farther if I'd popped my hips 1 second earlier. And I bent my knees in the back, so I killed my momentum here. Maybe this is possible. But yeah, just I do better proving myself. I think acting myself into confidence than talking myself into confidence and then trying things.
Absolutely. And that's kind of like made me think of how before you do something that is mentally challenging or that you're afraid of, like standing there looking in the mirror and doing the power pose, and how that kind of physicality of a powerful stance changes how you can approach that challenge, right? And so it's kind of like almost tricking your body into thinking, okay, yeah, I'm powerful, I can do this, and then you just go do it. So I'm sorry, go ahead. You had a thought. I want to hear it.
I was like, I think my body always believes it can do. I have to hold it back. It's like, hey, we could jump off of this building and fly. And I'm like, no, we don't have wings. We have to, let's think about this for a second.
I love it. So for someone who admires you and what you've accomplished, what kind of advice do you have for them?
It's normal for hard things to feel impossible. It's really easy to try something and be like, man, I am really bad at this. I'm probably not meant to do this. This is for other people who get this. And there are a lot of things that you can be really good at that you'll try and be like, I don't get this at all. Well, if you think you might like it, keep trying, because there's gonna be a shift in your brain or in your body. A lot of people jump on a bar and feel like pull-ups are impossible, and they say, well, I just can't do pull-ups. There's a lot of drills you can do to work up to it, and you will surprise yourself. So it's just about accepting that it feels impossible and doing all the footwork to make it possible. Don't be discouraged by the feeling of impossible. That's the message.
I love it. I think that's like an awesome lesson for just life in general. I'm sure our listeners would love to continue to follow you and find you online and just keep tabs on the awesome things that you're doing. So, where can the listeners find you on social media and elsewhere?
All my social media is Jessie Graff Power, JessieGraffPWR.
Awesome. Well, I know they'll look forward to keeping up with all of your adventures and exploits, and I will too. I thank you so much for being on this podcast with me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's a
Woo-hoo.
wrap.
Yay.
Oh, that was so great. That was fun. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else is we're off the record now, but what else is happening these days? What are you up to?
Well, I'm halfway through my corrective exercise specialization. So learning all about like the overactive and underactive muscles and how to lengthen and activate and then integrate and all that. So I'm really enjoying the chapter on posture and correcting it.
Oh, cool.
And all the assessments.
Yeah.
But I also did start my I'm going into my second class of the master's degree.
Yeah.
So I'm studying physiology. And I have a ninja partner who does animation, and he's helping me come up with we're going to make a cartoon to express basic metabolism.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. I've been sketching things and then he's been making it.
Is that going to be like part of your master's thesis or?
I think so. I'm just in my second class right now, and it's sort of like an undergrad physiology plus bonus assignments.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's kind of what I'm thinking of as like a final project for at least this part of the class. I want a lot more of my future classes to be more biomechanics and like physics of movement related. But I was just going through a phase where I was really interested in metabolism. So
cool.
Actually, my friend is studying some nutrition, higher level nutrition than I was just studying. And we're contemplating whether or not I've been on too low carb of a diet, and is that contributing to all the injuries that I constantly have and how slowly I seem to recover.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Interesting. And I always get a lot of questions from my patients like, oh, what should I be eating? And, and it's, I think in our medical training and in orthopedics, and even those of us that go into sports medicine, like there's just this black hole of nutrition and diet that we just don't get, and I wish that we had more of. And so, maybe that's like going to be one of my next chapters too, is just kind of exploring that piece of it to help my patients heal better after surgery.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I feel like for the most part, the safest, most generic, but helpful things you can say are more water, more vegetables.
Yep.
Less sugar.
Yeah. I mean, because every single person, regardless of their medical condition or whatever, can benefit from that for sure.
Yeah.
I usually
those changes.
Yeah. I mean, people ask me, oh, should I be eating anything special after surgery or after, having had this fracture? I'm like, well, make sure you get your calcium and vitamin D, but just a well-balanced diet, stay well hydrated, have lots of fiber, because your pain medicines are going to make you constipated.
Oh, it's so dramatic.
It's so dramatic. And I'm like, you don't understand. You're going to get so constipated.
It's intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
After my left shoulder surgery, I tried to do the whole thing without the pain meds because I wanted to see if I could avoid that. And I did. And it was not worth it.
Oh, it's a little bit of a balancing act, it's like, okay, I don't want to be in pain.
Wanted to see if I could, but
yeah.
I have a friend who, I forget if I told you this, but my friend had a screw taken out of her ankle with no anesthesia.
I recall fully awake. That.
Yeah. I'm just still so blown away by it.
Yeah, I know. I'm personally a little bit of a weenie, so I'm like, I just give me something, but please don't make me constipated. Well,
Yeah,
this
it
was really
happens.
fun. I look forward to staying in touch. I'll let you know. I'm gonna be putting out a mini season of 6 episodes because I'm so busy with the documentary project and just like trying to run a
Mhm.
practice in the middle of COVID and so I'm like, you know what? It's my podcast, so I'm going to put out 6 instead of 12,
Great.
which is the beauty of it. So
Yes.
I'll be working on the post production next month or two, and then I'll let you know when it comes out, and if you'll share it, I would love it.
Awesome.
All
Cool. Well, thank
right.
you.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch, and thanks again, and have a great rest of your weekend.
Okay. Thanks. You
All
too.
right. Bye bye.
Bye.